You saw her on the night of the event, November of 2017. You've heard statements from her depot in May of 19. At some point in there, she does a trip to California because she's posting pictures of it. And now, at the perpetuated testimony in September or November of 20, now she's adamantly saying in her cross, it's not Tucker, it's not Tucker, it's not Tucker. Not until September of 20 does that come out. What changed from the night of the event to May of 2019 to September of 20? We know she was friends with the defendant's wife on Facebook. She mentioned that. They were talking up to 20 times a day. Paula went from living homelessly in a flop house to a trip to California.
You get the inference there. I mean, I think it's beyond an inference. It's like a direct accusation that the surviving victim in this case was paid off by the defendant and his wife. That's what the accusation was there. Like, what's the response of Ty Tucker and his wife, Lauren? Well, you're going to find out in just a moment, because joining us, the defendant, the man representing himself, Franklin Ty Tucker, and his wife, Lauren Jenai. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Ty, you do realize that tomorrow you could be, locked up for the rest of your life. Like this could be your last night of freedom tonight. You understand that, right?
I do realize that, and I just want to say I'm a big fan. I never knew who you were before, but I do know now, and yeah, I like the way you've analyzed this so far. No, it could very well be my last night. That's absolutely true. And I wish my wife was here, but we can't really do that right now.
Okay, well, that's the other question everyone's wondering, and maybe Lauren will answer that. Why can't you do that? Be together for perhaps your husband's last night of freedom?
When you put it that way, it sounds horrible. I wish I was there with him to support him. I am here many, many miles away, but I do have 4 children that I can't leave. And also, I don't feel particularly comfortable and safe traveling to Key West, given what's going on in this case.
All right. The folks who watch the show understand the 4 children. I mean, we talk about children. I mean, that's priority number 1. Sorry, Ty. Children, and Ty knows Ty has children as well. So, okay. So this is what I want to do. Let's answer that question first that was brought up by the prosecutor, and whoever wants to volunteer here, because I mean, it's an accusation, Lauren, that you somehow are like paying off a witness. That's a crime.
Correct. And believe me, if they had any proof of that, they would be presenting it. I mean, it's a horribly weak maneuver on their part, and I think it just goes to show how little they have, how they know they have nothing in terms of any evidence against Ty and his involvement in this case, that they have to bring me into the picture, that I bought Paula a trip.
Did you pay for that trip out to California?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, Ty, this is what I need to do, because I don't have a clear picture, right? So a murder happens.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly thereafter, you're arrested, you're accused. If I was accused of a murder, the first thing I would do, if I didn't do it, right, factually innocent, not they can't prove it, right? They can't prove it is the legal standard. You're presumed innocent. But if I was factually innocent, I would say, okay, what on earth, what was I doing that day? Where was I? What exactly was I doing? How could I prove it? So can you walk us through I guess it would be your alibi of what you were doing, where you were, who you were talking to? Were you on your phone? Is there phone records of you talking to someone, watching a video, anything like that? Is he frozen or silent? I don't think he's silent, right?
I think he's frozen.
He's never silent.
He's never silent.
He's never, ever silent. Okay, so I have some more questions for you, Lauren. Your relationship, you knew him before this, but you fell in love after this? How does that work?
I mean, honestly, it sounds outrageous, but, you know, he and I did talk a lot on the phone over, 2 years while he was in jail. And, our friendship rekindled initially. And then we definitely bonded over what was going on with this case, because he allowed me to have access to all the discovery, all the information that was provided by the prosecution. And he basically told me in the beginning, he's like, I don't expect you to just blindly believe me. Look at the evidence. Look at what's there, and then you tell me what you think. And and then as I did, I mean, it was so blatantly obvious that something was horribly wrong with this case. And then, he and I started bonding over that. And then, we had a thing for each other as kids, and so that kind of rekindled. And he's a smart man, and he's very charismatic. And I know a lot of people like him. And he's got some quirkinesses about him, but I do too. And those quirkinesses, I guess, just matched. And, there were fireworks.
And the world of social media that we live in, and folks who watch trials, they discuss trials online, and a lot of them skeptical, right? Because where he was in life and where you were in life, right? That, oh, wow, she's got a lot of money. Wow, she did really well. Was that a concern of yours? Were your guards up at all?
I just never have lived my life that way. I've had money, I've not had money. I just really go through life with my gut instincts and, my heart. And that means I have all kinds of friends, people who have money, people who don't have money. I mean, I'm not a kind of person who judges in that way. And everybody wants to portray Ty as like this drug addict, this homeless person. He wasn't those things. He chose a certain type of life. He didn't want a lot of money. He wanted a simple life. He wanted to be on a boat and sailing and, just to have simplicity. And that was his choice, and I respected it. I mean, I always respected the man. He doesn't do life like other people, and that's part of why I fell in love with him.
And I think there's a lot of folks like that down in Key West, right? I mean,
yeah,
people end up there.
Yeah.
How about his demeanor? What America is watching in court is the most calm murder defendant in the history of murder defendants on court TV. Like, is he always that way? Does he practice meditation? Like, what is it? Where's that coming from? Or has he always been that way?
I mean, he's like any of us. We have our moments of, calm and agitation. He definitely can get angry. He and I think it's kind of public, we have had a rocky relationship. But at the same time, he has very much control over his emotions. And I think him in front of the court, in front of the people who are accusing him, and in front of the jury, he's doing a spectacular job of staying steely-eyed focused on the job he needs to do, which is to defend himself. There's no point in him getting, angry or, he's not one to throw antics out there. There's some talk of that in the chatters communities, and he's just trying to be honest and tell his story and present, his side, his defense. And why would you get overly emotional or irate, in that situation?
I'll explain why. Like, you're being accused of murder. The folks on the other side are trying to put you in prison for the rest of your life. You're saying that someone that you knew has come into a courtroom under oath and pointed the finger directly at you and falsely accused you of a crime. Things like that can get people very angry, unnerved, steam coming out of your ears. Also, the prospect of not being able to walk out of the courtroom tomorrow, and throughout the course of the trial, like, all those things, clearly unnerving, but we haven't seen that. Oh, and we have him
it's
back.
a testament to Ty.
We have him back. Let's put him
Yay.
back on the screen. There he is. Okay, we were just talking about your demeanor. I don't know if you heard us, but like, where's that coming from, Ty?
You're calm, cool, and collected.
Well, to be honest. Yeah, well, not always, because today I definitely got angry with the prosecutor. I'm not going to say I didn't. I tried to keep it, as calm as I could, but the things he was saying and the things he was implying, like even the thing with Lauren, we sidebarred about that yesterday when he was up there trying to, grill me and do me. He tried to put those in evidence yesterday, and then he wasn't allowed. The judge ruled on it, and then he brings it out in his close. It's like, come on, man.
So let's do this. Before we got cut off before, my question to you was, walk us through like the alibi. Like, where are you? What are you doing at the time this is happening? And I know some of the testimony is I'm drunk, but like, there's got to be more.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little more detail about who you spoke to. Did you eat anything that day? Is there anything? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, here's the thing: is to understand this case, and this is where people don't understand why I'm pro se. You need to look in the history of the case, and then you can understand why I went pro se. Probably a lot better. As far as alibis go, it was exactly like I said. I mean, I know from videos. I know from looking at the case. How certain things happen, but I can't testify to those things. One of the things the prosecutor did today totally disgusted me. I gotta say, totally disgusted me. That whole thing with the knife, and when he used Paula's, and my conversation with Paula at the McDonald's. It's like this guy knows that Penny Phelps came into that interrogation room with that knife and sat there and tried to threaten me with it. Oh, well, there's going to be DNA on it, and it's got Matt's blood on it, and all this other stuff. And then he tries to use it, knowing I can't say that in the courtroom. And knowing I can't say that, and then tries to bring that, what possible, what could there be? What other excuse could there be? There's no other excuse. You know damn well what excuse there was. And yeah, I was pissed. I'm still pissed, obviously. You can tell. Well,
now we're seeing, are you breaking the calm mode a little bit? But still, and I asked you about the alibi. Because here's the situation. This is the way I look at this, right? And I look at this in all cases that I evaluate. Someone is factually innocent. That means you did not do it. Not they can't prove it, but you did not do it, right? While this murder's taking place, you're not there. So where are you just before? Where are you just after? How can you string those pieces together? Because if I was accused of a murder, or if anyone was accused of a murder, you would want to look back and want to piece that together and prove it any which way you can, because in your heart you weren't there.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Vinny, and this is why I said you need to look at the history of the case. Okay, my alibi was real simple. The video of Tom Thumb. But okay, Danielle Malone collected the wrong date. Okay, well then we asked her for that tape. Nope, they don't have that either. Then we have a video of Detective Pitcher showing John Travis Johnson. Here you are off the tape of Tom Thumb. We asked him for that. Where's the one that was on the phone? Oh, sorry, my phone crashed and I had to take it to IT, and now that video's gone too. Well, where'd you get it? Oh, I don't remember. It's like everything in this case has been as dirty as it gets, Vinny. And what the prosecutor today shouldn't surprise me. But
go ahead, Lauren.
I'd like to speak on this, if I may. Yeah, I mean, it was interview. So Ty claims he was asleep when this happened in a warehouse, right? And there is an interview done by the lead detective, Pitcher, and Colleen Dunn, the former prosecutor on the case, where a gentleman who's been brought up in the case is named Big Scott. And Big Scott was there that night. And they asked Big Scott about the night. This may even have been a year later. And he says, Ty was sleeping. He was asleep. When this happened.
When the police showed up.
Because he was awake hanging out with Travis. So, I mean, there is evidence, to support what Ty's saying, where he was, his alibi, but that has not been ever brought into the case.
Let me ask you this. In preparing for the trial, a big part of criminal defense isn't just the lawyering. It's the defense investigators that are hired. If you go back to the O.J. Simpson trial, the same investigator from that case was the same investigator in the Casey Anthony trial. We know what the results of both of those cases were. So a lot of these defense cases can be won with investigation. Did you hire any criminal investigators for this case?
I don't even want to talk about that.
I had the best criminal investigator you could possibly get. I got the best one you could get. That woman's sitting right there. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, Vinny, we had tons and still have tons of evidence of misconduct. Tons. And yet I'm not allowed to talk about it at trial. I'm not allowed to bring it into trial. I mean, there's sustained allegations. There's literally, they brought a posse down to the courthouse to threaten me and my attorney. And we have it on video. Yet, oh, wait a second, that's not violating my due process rights. You know, it's ridiculous, Vinny. I know it's hard to believe, but it's ridiculous. It has been one thing after another in this case.
All right, stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. You're in lockdown right now. When we come back, Ty, Lauren will remain with us. We'll talk more about the night before the jury gets the case. Believe it or not, tomorrow the jury gets the case. And you never know what a jury's going to do. This could be his last night of freedom right here on Closing Arguments.
Worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Could Alex Murdaugh get a new trial?
Allegations that Becky Hill tampered with the jury.
This is a very serious matter.
The Murdaugh family murders. Motion for a new trial. Live coverage Monday morning, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
With black pants and black shirt. One of my things, I guess it's called net gator. Okay. I would not do it. I'm not. Okay. I just got a beard. Okay.
He described him to a T. He's got a beard this long. You saw the beard. Neck gaiter covers it up. And this was all done. They didn't tell Travis anything about a Jägermeister neck gaiter. Phelps didn't say anything about that. Those were details that Travis provided to them. They didn't give him his narrative. He gave them his narrative.
Unbelievable. It's the night before the jury gets the case down in Key West, and Ty Tucker and his wife, Lauren Jenai, are with us live. The gate, I want to show you a picture. Can you see what's on the screen where you are, Ty?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see my wife too.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you guys can see each other. Let's put a picture up on the screen. I want you to get a response to. Do we have that photo? That one. What is that?
Yep.
Who is that?
That's the one that got me. That's the one that made me a suspect right there. That is how I became a suspect.
Is that a real knife?
I was Maury Povich into it. Basically.
So this is at the fantasy festival, right?
Look at the knife. Yeah, this is on Halloween. Fantasy Fest, actually, it's kind of like Mardi Gras, but it happened to be Halloween night that year. And Captain Phelps, who you saw on the tape, and I took a big risk playing that tape, I'm going to tell you, because there's some things in there that are definitely incriminating. But it's like I started to tell the jury, I was like, okay, you notice April Walker isn't here at trial. You notice Captain Phelps isn't here at trial. You notice the lead detective, Pitcher, isn't here at trial. Look, if you even read the lead detectives,
did you think of subpoenaing any of those?
Scary.
Any of those witnesses? Bringing them in on subpoena?
I did. Well, I did, but Captain Phelps would have been, this thing would have turned into a complete, and you think it's bad now? It would have been a hell of a circus with Captain Phelps. You're talking about a woman who set me up for homicide, and I'll say that point blank. She tried to sue me after she got fired for this investigation, and tried to sue me for defamation and civil conspiracy because I was saying she set me up and I'm innocent. So, and by the way, that case got dismissed with a 40-page opinion from the federal judge saying how there isn't a scintilla of evidence.
Okay, let's.
But it's irrelevant to this one.
Yeah. Let me ask you
all
this. And again, I read so many comments each and every day, people talking about this case. It happens in all the trials that we cover here on Court TV. And there's a bit of a split on you. There are some people who really have been watching this trial and do not like you. They don't. Are you afraid, and you're seeing it in the courtroom, are you afraid that perhaps some of the jurors might have that same reaction? Because most cases, we don't get to hear much from the defendant. Sometimes we hear nothing. I mean, day in and day out, they are learning who you are. Any fear tonight that they might just not like you, your personality, etc., and find you much less credible than Travis?
I'll tell you, Vinny, I mean, actually, you bring up a good point. This is why I liked you so much, because you realize one of the benefits of going pro se. And you brought that out early on about, how defendants never get, they very rarely ever get heard. Nobody wants to put them on the stand. They're scared of the prosecutor twisting them up, that kind of thing. And you're right. Yes, that was part of why I went pro se. The thing is yes, do I think there's a couple of people on that jury who absolutely hate me? Yeah, I think there are. Do I think there's some other ones on there who understand and, they actually, they see it for what it is? Yeah, I think there's some of those too. So we're going to have to see how it goes.
And, during voir dire, you get to learn a little bit about the jurors, et cetera. Do you feel that this jury understands Key West?
Well, since a lot of them are from here, and I did specifically avoid people who were born here or who lived here for a long period of time for a reason. But the thing is, so yeah, there's people here who understand Key West. And Key West, I mean, that's the thing, is you really have to understand the politics here to understand what's going on in this case. You got to understand how it is down here. And that Bubba system thing is real.
Let me ask you this also about the life that you were living around the time that this was happening. How much partying? How many drugs? What kind of drugs? How many people were in your life that some of us would refer to as shady characters?
First off, almost everybody on Stock On's a shady character. I'm just going to say. But, look, I probably party. Look, I worked, so like everybody else, but down here, yeah, it's like I said on the stand. I mean, I definitely drink more when I come to Key West. On a boatyard when I was working there, I mean, hell, we'd pick up a 5-liter box of Fireball, and that thing would be gone before lunch.
What's Fireball? What's Fireball?
Well,
I'm only kidding.
I don't know, Vinny. How do you not know?
I'm only kidding.
I know you are.
Okay, good.
I catch the sarcasm.
Some people don't get my sarcasm. Okay. So, but did you, at the time, did you realize that these people that were in your life probably weren't great people? Like, one of them turned out to be a killer, right? Detroit?
Yeah, and here's the thing, and I've asked myself this many times, Vinny. I literally have asked myself this many, many times. How could I have avoided this, right?
I'll tell you how you could have avoided it. You could have gone on Facebook. You could have gone on Facebook and tracked down Lauren.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is we were talking on Facebook before this happened. I mean, yeah, she did. And man, look, I tried to, because as a matter of fact, she invited me to go out to Arizona so I could see Mike Tyson stand up, and I had to work. That's when I was doing I was actually doing a restoration on a 86-foot Hatteras at the time, and I couldn't get off work. But it would have been nice.
Well, get back to the real answer now on what was going on in your life and the people that were day in and day out part of your life in the warehouse and the other places you were hanging out.
Well, the thing is okay, again, I don't judge people, Vinny. I really don't. I try not to anyway. And look, yeah, people do this or they do that, but I am a big believer in freedom. And look, I'm not going to ever tell you that smoking crack is good for you. I'm not going to say that, but man, if somebody wants to do it, it's none of my business. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, I don't care what you do. Now, am I going to say, there's no way. I didn't see it with Travis. I didn't see it with Rory. I mean, I barely knew these guys. I mean, I knew them a little bit, but not enough that it would have ever told me that they would do something like this. But at the same time, I mean, hindsight being 2020. I mean, you know, the only thing is, you know, the things that got me hemmed up in this, and man, that's the thing is nobody really understands because what Malone said on there, that's not how I became a suspect. Phelps got on the stand 2 times and said how, you know, what made me a suspect. It was because I was white, because I was staying at the warehouse, because Rory Wilson went with me to pay my phone bill, and that picture right there. And from that, she literally, the lead detective comes in from interviewing the 911 caller. She's like, there's your white guy. That's it. That's what made it. And not a single person even asked, what evidence do you have? What makes you think this? From then on, I'm the white guy. That's it. And now 6 years of fighting, and I'm still the white guy.
All right. Stay where you are, Ty. Like I said, you're in lockdown, at least until 9 o'clock. We're going to take a short break.
I'm on lockdown all the time anyway.
Yeah, that's true. When we come back,
all right.
Ty and Lauren, stay with us. Plus, coming up next hour. On the docket tonight in Santa Fe County, New Mexico, the armorer who allegedly loaded the gun with a live bullet that was handed to Alec Baldwin is getting ready for trial. Will she blame Alec Baldwin?
So my only question is, am I being charged with something?
No, we're just interviewing.
That's fine. That's all I'm not worried because I'm not, yeah.
Did a contentious divorce lead to a killing?
Jennifer Dulos vanished in 2019 and has never been found.
Her estranged husband was charged with her murder, but died by suicide before going to trial.
Now his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis,
stands trial for her alleged role in the disappearance.
I think this is going to be a really fascinating case. They've thrown everything up against this defendant.
The Missing Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Tomorrow morning, the jury will get the case against Ty Tucker. And before that happens tomorrow morning, tonight, Ty and his wife, Lauren Jenai, are with us live. I want to show you another picture, Ty. Take a look. I have a question. Do you still have that shirt?
I do. That was after the gag order went in.
Do you think that you will be wearing it tomorrow?
Probably not in the courthouse. I still wear the suit in the courthouse, but no, we'll see. You know, it's like, I got that shirt specifically because they put a gag order on me and my wife, and they weren't letting us talk about the case anymore. It's like, as soon as people started believing us, they shut us up.
So, what's the plan if, in fact, the jury comes back and says not guilty? What's the plan for that day and the rest of your life moving forward?
I'll tell you, I can't really think that far ahead. I mean, to be honest, I'm hoping that's the case. But what's sad is I've been locked up now long enough that I really have no concept of being free anymore.
Lauren,
it is what it is.
How are you going to watch the verdict tomorrow? Where will you be? If it happens tomorrow.
I'm going to be on standby all day waiting. And like Ty said, I don't think either of us can really think forward past that. I mean, it's impossible. The consequences are so impactful and so final. And neither of us can fathom what is going to happen and what's going to happen after, no matter which scenario.
All right. Well, I'm sure you two will be speaking all night tonight. Ty, thank you so much. Lauren, thank you so much. And we shall see what happens tomorrow.